Will you stand in body or in spirit as we join in the call to worship? When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion, then goodness enters our lives and we can begin to change the world. We begin our joys and concerns by celebrating with our children's and youth programs. Our children had a fun parents' night out this weekend, and our youth celebrated their youthfulness in a lock-in. Thank you, Pastor Tommy and Allie McKinney, our interim youth coordinator, for being with and loving our children and youth. We hold the following concerns in our prayers. We pray for Andrew Pike, son of Jim and Susan Pike. Andrew is very vulnerable to illnesses because he is a heart transplant recipient, has COVID. He is on Paxlovid, and Jim reports that he's getting better. Unfortunately, Susan has also tested positive for COVID. We hold Andrew and Susan in our prayers and pray that Jim stays negative. We also pray for others in our congregation who we know have tested positive for COVID, Larry Schultz and Becky Overstreet. We say a special prayer for Becky, who is now unable to attend her brother's funeral. We hold in our prayers Carol Major's brother, Parks, whose cancer is progressing. We pray for Sharon Underwood and Steve Rudy, who are receiving treatment for cancer. And we remember Shamika MacArthur, who requests prayers that she and her son will not be evicted from their apartment. The candle and flowers on the communion table today represent the nations of Turkey and Syria, where the death toll from the earthquakes exceeds 28,000. These are people who are all our kindred. Tulips are the national flower of Turkey, and jasmine is considered to be the national flower of Syria. We remember them all in our prayers. Let's join our hearts in prayer. God of mercy, hear the prayers of our hearts we offer you this day. Give us and those we love the wisdom, strength, and healing we need for these difficult days. We remember all we have named, aloud or in the silence, who celebrate joys and endure concerns at this time. We grieve all the tragedies occurring daily in our world. Today we name especially the people of Turkey and Syria, as they searched for more earthquake survivors and mourned the many thousands who have died. Remind us that we were all diminished when anyone is harmed. Remind us that you call us to build just and loving communities of compassion, forgiveness, and hope wherever we are. God of mercy, hear the prayers of our hearts we offer you this day. Amen. Our gospel reading today comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5. You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, "You shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment." But I say to you that if you are angry with a sibling, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a sibling, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, "You fool," you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you're offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your sibling has something against you, leave your gift before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you're on the way to court with them, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. It was also said, "Whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce." But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of sexual immorality, causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, "You shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to God." But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is God's footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great sovereign. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one.
I could hear y'all thinking as Kathy was reading, what is she going to say today? Beautiful words. I could hear you. Maybe we need to sing that, "Come, Spirit, come, our hearts control." Sing with me. Our spirits long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every deed. By this we worship and are free. If you had to choose one narrative, one passage, one verse of the Bible that you think best speaks to our times, what would it be? Recognizing the great political and religious divisions in our nation and the violence they create, the deepening poverty and the racial injustice created by systems of oppression that keep the poor poor and the rich rich, maybe you would choose the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Or maybe for you, it would be the story of the Good Samaritan or the prodigal who returns home repentant. Or maybe you're thinking about that passage in Matthew about when you feed the hungry and give the thirsty a drink of water, or when you visit the sick or welcome the stranger, and you hear those words of Jesus say, "When you did it to the least of these, who are members of my family, you did it to me." Or, if you're more inclined to the words of the prophets, maybe you would turn to Isaiah. Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. Though spoken thousands of years ago, any one of these passages could rightly speak to the state of our union and the world today. Each in their own way point to the struggle of humanity to actually build God's kingdom here on this earth. And yet, I would posit to you today that our text from Matthew's gospel may be a better source to consider when seeking a biblical response to our times. Not so much for its content, although the content is important, but rather for what it teaches us about reading our sacred scriptures. And so I asked this morning, how does this phrase, this formula Jesus uses, "You have heard it said, but I say to you," how does it speak to these times in which we are living today? Our text is part of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount as recorded in Matthew's Gospel. It follows those beautiful Beatitudes that Jesus lifts up in his first, maybe only sermon. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Beautiful words. He follows the blessings by reminding his followers that you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. And then, as a faithful observer of his Jewish heritage, he begins to speak and teach about the law. He says, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill." He goes on making an appeal to his followers, his disciples, to follow the commandments and the law. And we pick up the story where he begins quoting the law. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not swear falsely. But as he quotes the law, he does something very interesting. He begins interpreting, or as one theologian writes, he begins scripturing the law. You have heard it said, but I say to you. This formula that Jesus uses begs an important question. What does it mean to be faithful to the Scriptures? As Mark Davis suggests, Jesus' framework demonstrates that faithfulness to the Scriptures does not mean God said it, I believe it, that settles it. In fact, Davis suggests that Jesus treats the Scriptures not as an ending point that settles anything, but as a beginning point for reforming the meaning of the text. Davis continues, he writes, I would argue that Jesus is changing the emphasis from the Scriptures as a noun to scripturing as a verb, giving testimony to God's real presence among God's people. The accounts of creation, the 10 words on Mount Sinai, the stories of the people of Israel, Psalms, Proverbs, prophetic utterances, and Jesus' own words are all ways of scripturing God's presence in differing times and in differing contexts. Davis writes, if that is what Jesus is doing here, scripturing God's presence in his moment rather than treating the Scriptures as closed and final canon, then it raises another huge question for the followers of Jesus. Do Jesus' words here signify a final revision of old Mosaic laws into new Christian doctrines? Or does Jesus' activity of scripturing demonstrate how to be faithful by scripturing God's presence in the present? Now, some would say what Davis is suggesting is heresy. But I believe that what he is saying and what Jesus demonstrated in his scripturing of the law is exactly how we need to approach our sacred text for these times in which we are living. Jesus didn't just quote the law. He went deeper and he went broader. You have heard it said, you shall not murder, but I say to you, you should also treat one another with respect, and that means not speaking hurtful or harmful words to one another. You have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you, one should not objectify other persons by seeing them as a means to satisfy physical desires. You have heard it said, you shall not swear falsely, but I say to you, one should speak and act truthfully in all dealings so that we don't need to make oaths at all. It is the same thing Jesus did when he quoted the Shema. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might, and then added, and love your neighbor as yourself. He was scripturing the Shema for his time. You've heard it said, you shall love God with all you have. And the way you love God with all you have, I say, is to love your neighbor. In terms of the law, it seems to me that Jesus was the best lawyer in town. He didn't just quote the law. He didn't use it as leverage for power or the abuse of power. He gave it meaning, Henry. He gave it meaning by scripturing it in the context of God's real presence in the present and in the lives of the people living. And his purpose in doing so was always to reformulate the law into the law of love, into the law of justice love. So what might scripting Jesus' words that we read in our sacred text look like in our context today to make God's presence real in our lives and in our world today? Consider these few examples of scripturing Jesus' words for our day. You have heard it said that you must lose your life in order to find it. But I say to you that you must lose your privilege and power you were given through your whiteness in order to find a life of justice love. You have heard it said that you must take up your cross and follow Jesus. But I say to you that you must be willing to offend your friends and family in order to call out systemic violence against black and brown bodies. You have heard it said that if you have 2 coats, give one away to someone who doesn't have one. But I say to you, pay a living wage so that people can make their way with their own dignity and respect, choosing their own damn coat. You've heard it said that you must render unto Caesar's that which is Caesar's and render unto God that which is God. But I say to you that you must be willing to render unto nature that which is hers and stop putting chemicals on your lawn and taking single-use plastic bags at the grocery, and as my wife would convict me and have me say, using fossil fuel to blow leaves around the yard when the tree they fell from needed their nutrients. She keeps trying to get rid of my leaf blower. You have heard it said, cure the lame, heal the sick. But I say to you, don't stop fighting and marching and protesting and writing letters to your senators until North Carolina stops putting wealth and the insurance company's profits over the wellness of every single citizen. By scripturing, Jesus is teaching us that his words and that of our spiritual ancestors are living words. And they must live not only between the pages bound between 2 ends, but they must live in the context and times of each generation that looks to them for wisdom and truth and guidance. If we are not scripturing Jesus' words for the struggles we are facing in 2023, maybe we just shouldn't open the Bible at all. And I know that may sound harsh and overly dramatic. But is it not true? What good is a second-hand religion? How meaningful is a faith that is not relevant to its day? To what degree can words on a page, even if they are sacred, transform our lives if they don't connect us to our own experience of God and with God and of one another in these present day struggles? I want for a moment to transition from sermon to personal testimony. For some time, one of my deepest longings for our church has been for us to engage in this anti-racism work that we say we want to do and are trying to do. And I can tell you with all sincerity that my heart and soul is in this work, but I must be honest with you, I am struggling. It seems these days that every way I turn, no matter how good I believe my intentions to be, I am exposing my own white privilege and power and fragility. You see, as I set the intention to do this work, and as I worked with lay leaders in our church to commit to this work, I knew that I had to be willing to accept and proclaim that America was founded on racism and that America is still operating and profiting from racist practices. I knew that I had to be willing to see and share that our state and county and our city are all perpetuating racism through our housing practices, our schools, our hospitals, and especially our courthouses. I knew also that I had to be willing to deeply examine and call out our own church, our own practices, our own mindsets, and sometimes our own hearts. And I set out to do the work of being anti-racist and doing so within this faith community. I was basing it on, you have heard it said that you must work and do everything in your power to change the system. And yet, as I reflect on these past months, and as I listen to my own sermons, and as I search my own heart, I now hear that statement. You have heard it said that you must work and do everything in your power to change the system. I now hear that statement as a statement of law, something that is required of me as a citizen. But it is the second half of Jesus' formula that has convicted me this week and this morning. But I say to you, you have to lose your life, your power, your privilege in order to save your life. That is the scripturing part of this work that I have needed to hear more clearly. For this work that we have set out to do, that I have set out to do, means losing my life, losing my power, losing my privilege. What does that specifically mean for me, a white, lesbian, clergy person pastoring a liberal congregation in the South? That is my work to do. And we each have our own work to do. I share this testimony with you because I've heard it said that you have to be perfect to do this work. I've heard it said that you have to serve Jesus in justice, love, and you have to be perfect. I've heard it said that you have to be perfect to be a radically loving Christian, to pastor a church through becoming an anti-racist church. But my faith is saying to me, God doesn't call you to be perfect. God calls you to be faithful. And God calls you to justice, love. And so may each of us hear that word and stay true to the law of love. We don't have to be perfect. We will make mistakes. I will make mistakes. I will get it wrong. We will get it wrong. But in the end, Matthew 5:21 through 37 is about the law of love, justice love, and faithfulness to that justice love. May we always follow that law.
We sang a few moments ago about wonderful words of life. This is a congregation that loves words, and words are important. Words of life are especially important. They make a difference in the world. But if we're going to feed and house and provide medicine and support for our neighbors, it will take more than words. give as generously as you can.
You are God's beloved. If you're here today searching for a search home to run this race with others who are by far not perfect, but are trying our very best to be faithful, we would be very honored to welcome you into this family and celebrate that with you while we sing our invitation.
Take my life and let it be
for just a moment. Ben, if you'll come stand with me. It is such a joy and a pleasure to introduce you to Ben Tapp. Ben has been worshiping with us and has decided that he wants to be a part of this ragtag group of Christians we call Pullen Memorial Baptist Church. Ben grew up in Eureka. Who gets to say that? I've learned that it is somewhere near Goldsboro, yes, right? Yes. So that's where we'll be familiar there. Grew up there as a lifelong Baptist. Moved to Raleigh over 15 years ago and worked in the pharmacy at the vet school, and has since retired and is feeling this call to come back into the fold.
Yes.
Right, yes. And so we are excited about that. Ian, he is ready to volunteer on Thursdays for Roundtable. So we got that going on. It has just been a pleasure for me to get to sit and talk with Ben and hear some of his story and his authenticity and his sincerity. And so I want to encourage you now, as you're going to be his faith family, to get to know him, to befriend him, and to share your life with him. So, but Ben, I will start with you and ask you that if it is your intent to make covenant with these beautiful people out here, to allow them to be a part of your life, to support you, encourage you, to walk alongside you as you walk this path of faith, for us to challenge one another, comfort one another, yes, but to be in real relationship with one another. Yes. He's ready. He's ready. And so I would ask you, the Pullen people, yes, you're ready too. If you're willing to put your arms around Ben and be in covenant and relationship with him, will you give a hearty "we do"? We do. Ben, we say this to new members as they join, and we want you just to stand there and feel our love as we welcome you with this new member statement. So you just let this flow over you. Striving to give witness. We welcome you with love, care, and support that is ever embracing. Blessed by your presence and enhanced by your gifts, we journey together in the spirit that we are ever becoming. Thank you. Ben, if you'll have a seat, but I'll ask you to stay up here with Frank at the end of the service, because folks will want to come up and greet you. Some will want to hug your neck, others will want to shake your hand or elbow touch, but yeah, stay there. I'd like to introduce James Crook now, who needs no introduction, for a presentation from our siblings in the Republic of Georgia. James.
I decided to come to the lectern so I can lean and not fall over while I'm doing this. And Nancy, I was glad you ended up where you did with your sermon, because I was worried a little bit about being booted out the door, so thank you. You're supposed to do something about those bad pieces of your life, right? As many of you know, the ashes of my parents, Roger and Mary Ruth, were interred here in the columbarium at Pullen. But some of the ashes were held out and were recently interred in the wall of the new Peace, or the rebuilding of Peace Cathedral in Tbilisi, Georgia. And a little bit more have also been held out and will be interred or will be spread, if plans hold, in the garden of the Baptist Seminary in Matanzas, Georgia. I'm sorry, Matanzas, Cuba. I got Georgia on the brain. I was there for 6 weeks, and it's a little tough sort of coming home. Now, their ashes were held in Georgia, in a ceramic pomegranate that was made by a Ukrainian refugee who actually runs a therapeutic ceramic studio that is designed for other refugees coming from the war-torn area to help them with the PTSD and the things that they're struggling with. And I've got another one that is being made to transport the ashes to Cuba. So I have brought with me a gift from the Peace Cathedral to Pullen that symbolizes the bond of these three loving communities of Pullen Memorial Baptist Church, Peace Cathedral, and First Baptist Church of Matanzas, Cuba. The bond that was initiated and strengthened by Mary Ruth and Roger Crook, both in their life and in their death. The painting that I brought is of three pomegranates, was painted by Nika Jafaridze, a well-known Georgian painter. His paintings have been exhibited in the Netherlands, the USA, Canada, Turkey, and a growing community of people that are devoted to his work. The Georgian inscriptions in the background of the painting explains the significance of the pomegranate symbol to all three of the Abrahamic faiths. Now, Jewish tradition says that each pomegranate holds 613 seeds, or arils, one for each commandment in the Torah. Today, pomegranates are often part of Rosh Hashanah celebrations, their seeds embodying the hope that the new year will be fruitful. In Christianity, the fruit broken or bursting open is a symbol of the fullness of Christ's suffering and resurrection. And pomegranate seeds were often compared to individual believers gathered into one community of faith. In Islam, according to the Quran, the gardens of paradise include pomegranates. It is important, the tradition says, to eat every seed of a pomegranate because one can't be sure which aril came from paradise. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is said to have encouraged his followers to eat pomegranates to ward off envy and hatred. Bishop Malka Sangalashvili of Georgia chose this painting as a visual symbol of the bond of these three faith communities and their commitment to ecumenical and interfaith life. So I present to you this painting from the Peace Cathedral in Georgia. And I thank you for your continued commitment to that work. Nancy, thank you.
Thank you, James.
To the work of supporting that group of people and the work that they are doing in this world. It is extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you, James, and on behalf of the Pullen community, we accept this gift with great honor and love for our siblings both in the Republic of Georgia and in Cuba and all around the world. It is a beautiful representation of the relationships and the kinship that we have with one another, and may we strengthen in the days to come all of those bonds as we do this work together. Let us stand for our benediction. In that Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Go be salty and go be a light, because the world needs your salt and your light. Go in peace."
Amen.